Next week, we go from this life to lives gone by. A fascinating film called Dead Again has just opened around Australia. It raises the possibility that we all have previous lives and that we can discover what those lives were like by using regression therapy. But can this be possible? That's Couchman Reincarnated, right here on ABC TV, 9:40 next Wednesday night.
They're cute, playful, inquisitive, friendly, determined, sociable, destructive, forceful, unstoppable, timid, fastidious, annoying, and now their habitat has been threatened with extinction.
There is no way I could have betrayed those badgers and allowed them to die.
Wildscreen examines the plight urban badgers face in today's world. 8 o'clock Thursday, ABC. He's a seasoned foreign correspondent, a provocative and highly respected commentator. He's been to the world's trouble spots, met the world's significant leaders, seen history unfolding. Now, George Nikas joins ABC's groundbreaking new program, Foreign Correspondent.
From Zambia, the world in perspective.
Foreign Correspondent with George Nikas, 7:30 Saturday. It's your network, ABC.
I'm Kerry O'Brien. Super Tuesday has narrowed the American presidential field to a two-horse race. But many Americans don't like what they regard as a poor choice. Tonight on Late Line, we cross to Washington to trace what happens from here. That's coming up after the news.
Hello, this is Clive Hale with ABC National Late Edition News. Thank you for joining us. Leading the news tonight, the ban on political advertising on radio and television faces being scrapped. The Prime Minister indicated a review of the ban during the by-election campaign for Wills.
Television is on Paul Keating's mind these days, and not just Norm of Life Be In It fame.
Take it easy.
Taking it easy is not the Prime Minister's style, and he's thinking of overturning the government's ban on political ads after just 2.5 months in operation. Mr Keating is ruling out an about-face before the Wills by-election, but what about in time for the next federal election?
Well, that's for us to make a judgment about. We're still looking at it.
This may come as something of a surprise to Administrative Services Minister Nick Bolkus, who discussed the issue with the Prime Minister last night, and whose office is adamant the legislation is staying and will acknowledge only that there may be some minor technical refinements. But Mr Keating obviously has much bigger changes in mind than that.
We're moving into a period where the political contests may be fought without the capacity to produce the arguments, and that needs to be thought about.
Our political correspondent Jim Middleton. There's been a collective sigh of relief from diplomats in Canberra and Jakarta at the about turn of the Timor protest vessel the Lusitania Expresso. Compromise won out over confrontation when the ship reached Indonesian waters earlier today. Both sides have saved face. The Indonesian Navy stopped the ship from getting to Dili, while protest leaders say they've made their point, drawing world attention to the situation there. But Portugal's president has condemned the interception of the Lusitania Expresso as a serious and intolerable violation of international law.
As the ship neared the 12-mile zone around East Timor, the warning came to turn and leave the area.
I say again that you are now in the Indonesian territoriality. I tell you directly to leave this area. Over.
The captain obeyed, but after turning began to stall the Indonesians, telling them the ship had developed mechanical trouble. In fact, organisers were trying unsuccessfully to contact the United Nations. 2 hours later, the peace vessel admitted defeat and set sail for Darwin under the watchful eyes of the Indonesians.
British Prime Minister John Major has gone to Buckingham Palace and is expected to dissolve Parliament and call an election for April the 9th immediately after the interview with the Queen. Yesterday, his Chancellor brought down a budget containing tax cuts. The NATO nations are putting pressure on Armenia and Azerbaijan to solve the Nagorno-Karabakh conflict without further bloodshed. Representatives of the two new countries were among those from former Soviet republics at a new East-West Cooperation Council formed along with NATO in Brussels. NATO members are concerned the fighting in the Armenian enclave could spark wider conflict in the region. Latest reports say dozens of people were killed in the town of Shosh when it was bombarded by Azeri forces. More than 1,500 people have died in the past 4 years in fighting between the Christian Armenians and the Muslim Azeris. Iraq has again pleaded to the rest of the world to lift trade sanctions. It says thousands of people are dying because they can't get food and medicine. But as Sheila McVicker reports, there's another side to the coin.
Iraq's government is using the newspapers it controls to foster suspicions the sanctions are politically motivated. Cartoons portray Uncle Sam as the bloodthirsty power behind the UN. But privately, Iraqis say they are being squeezed by both sides, by the UN and by their own government. Iraqis call it the twist. For even as Saddam Hussein's government is trying to blame others for Iraq's problems, it is cracking down on its own people, trying to stifle dissent and demonstrate control. Just weeks after a United Nations report severely criticized Iraq's record of repression, Saddam Hussein went on television to threaten Iraqis with beheadings if they didn't behave.
Fierce storms and tornadoes have taken toll of life and property in the South Central American states. At least 6 people are dead and scores injured. 3 women were killed in one small town in Mississippi when a tornado touched. Alabama was also hard hit with more deaths and extensive damage to houses and businesses. Blizzards paralyzed transportation in Colorado, Nebraska and Wyoming, and the radar system was knocked out at Chicago's International Airport.
Back home, and liquidators have done on the private company of Christopher and Pixie Skase, which owes more than $7 million in tax.
Career investments will be wound up following a successful application in Brisbane Supreme
Court to appoint a liquidator. After a strong start, as markets have finished off their highs for the day, the share market closed almost 4 points. Dollar was stronger. South Australian dropped, charged performers arrested yesterday in Adelaide First event. They were in a street theatre in the city, dressed only in G-strings and covered in
dolly pants. Now take a look at tomorrow's national weather for you. Windy showers in Brisbane. A southerly change is expected for Sydney. There should be late storms in Darwin. It'll be mainly fine in Melbourne, also fine in the other capital cities. That's ABC Later News. I'm Clive Hale. Hope you can join us. Meantime, enjoy your evening and stay with us now for late. Good night.